Appamada and its programs are supported by your generosity, and your generosity and support makes such a difference. You can find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org. Thank you.
Good morning. It's been a quiet hour and a half. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to talk this morning about the Metta Sutta. And I'd like to start that with us all together saying that, chanting the Metta Sutta, which is in the chant book on page 17. So we can bring that up for the people online. And I'm going to do this kind of slow so we can really feel into these words, what it evokes, what it feels like to say them and become aware of their meaning. Metta Sutta. This is what should be accomplished by the one who is wise, who seeks the good and has obtained peace. Let one be strenuous, upright, and sincere, without pride, easily contented, and joyous. Let one not be submerged by the things of the world. Let one not take upon oneself the burden of riches. Let one's senses be controlled. Let one be wise but not puffed up, and let one not desire great possessions even for one's family. Let one do nothing that is mean or that the wise would reprove. May all beings be happy. May they be joyous and live in safety. All living beings, whether weak or strong, in high or middle or low realms of existence, small or great, visible or invisible, near or far, born or to be born, may all beings be happy. Let no one deceive another, nor despise any being in any state. Let none by anger or hatred wish harm to another. Even as a mother, at the risk of her life, watches over and protects her only child, so with a boundless mind should one cherish all living things, suffusing love over the entire world, above, below, and all around without limit. So let one cultivate an infinite goodwill toward the whole world, standing or walking, sitting or lying down, during all one's waking hours. Let one practice the way with gratitude, not holding to fixed views, endowed with insight, free from sense appetites. One who achieves the way will be free from the duality of birth and death. So, let me explain a little before I start, or as I start, about why I chose to talk about the Metta Sutta today. It's because I was being clever. I was thinking about Mother's Day, which some of us may celebrate, and thinking, oh, right, there's a line in here about mother's love. And so that was part of it. though I realize that's a little problematic for many of us because we may not have experienced our mothers in that way. But I think more importantly, I was thinking of Zenke Blanche Hartman, Flint's root teacher, and hearing that as her practice ripened and she became older and nearer to the end of her life, she became very dedicated to the practice of metta. She became very involved in the Metta Sutta. And I always had a connection with my idea of Blanche because I know in her profession, she was a scientist, she was an engineer. And that always appealed to me because I have a very strong rational mind. I want to understand things in a very conscious, logical way, and non-duality eludes me and frustrates me. And so I thought maybe she felt the same way, having a strong, active, rational mind, and maybe her teachings will speak to me about that, about how to reconcile my rational and non-rational parts of myself. So when I heard that she was very interested or very dedicated to Metta and the Metta Sutta, I wondered why. And it seems, or had seemed, and in a way still does seem to me, an instruction about how to be nice, how to be really, really nice, how to be superhumanly nice. And that didn't seem to jive with my particular idea about Blanche Hartman or about myself, and that part of myself that I identify with her. So I wanted to find out, what is this? This was a teacher who was ripe in her practice, and this is what she gravitated toward at the end of her life. There must be something there. I want to know what's there. So again, this kind of flies in the face of my experience, like I explained. Many of the phrases in the Metta Sutta, suffusing love over the entire world, what does that mean? How does one possibly do that? Even as a mother at the risk of her life watches over and protects her only child, so with a boundless mind should one cherish all living things. Wait a minute, what about the beings that we believe are causing suffering? What about the examples we can all think of that are out there that don't seem to be deserving of love, of my love, of my good feeling, my wish for well-being? What about those beings? What about this? This is really non-differentiating. And I think that speaks to one of the really important points about this sutra, that it does speak to interconnectedness. It does speak to dependent origination, that we are all connected. Providing loving kindness and receiving loving kindness really produce very much the same sensation. very much the same outcome. So I wanted to go through the Metta Sutta, a few lines by a few lines, and just tell you sort of my interpretation of it. And then hopefully we'll have some time to talk at the end of this. I'll keep an eye on my time. So it seems to me that the first part of the Metta Sutta is instructions about how to be a good person, how to live a good life. This is what should be accomplished by the one who is wise, who seeks the good and has obtained peace. So this to me seems a basic Buddhist instruction about how to live a good life. And then there's a list. Let one be strenuous, upright, and sincere, without pride, easily contented and joyous. Let one not be submerged by the things of the world. This idea, not being submerged by the things of the world, seems to repeat several times. Not taking up the burden of riches, letting one's senses be controlled, not to desire great possessions. And then there's a line that covers everything else forever. Let one do nothing that is mean or that the wise would reprove. That just about covers it. Don't do any of those things. I've always gotten a little stuck with this line, because who's to say who's wise? Some people would say one person is wise, and other people would vehemently disagree. What one group of people or one single person thinks is a wise action is not the same as what every group and every person thinks is a wise action. So I offer this as a point of inquiry. I mean in this talk to encourage all of us to continue our practice of practice realization step by step. I don't mean to offer hindrances, but I do want to share with you where I have questions, have things that need answering that I wonder about. And that's one of them. Where do I get off saying what's wise for everyone? I'm not sure about that. So that stays with me. And then we move into a section that I think of as the crux of the sutta, that has such a different feeling for me. When I say this next line, I feel a sense of opening up and almost a sense of tears coming to my eyes at times. May all beings be happy. May they be joyous. Not just happy, but joyous and live in safety. So then it goes through talking about everybody, all beings, all things, whether they're high or low or middle, whether they're near or far, even born or to be born. May all beings be happy. What a wish, what a prayer. It reminds me of the Dalai Lama, who, when he talks about what is my religion is kindness. So maybe loving kindness is a little bit highfalutin. Maybe it's just simply kindness, simply positive fellow feeling, friendliness. Peg has mentioned benevolence. And then we go into a section that is how to do that. Other section of instruction, like the first section was an instruction about how to live a good life. Now we're being instructed about how to create the conditions that all beings may be happy. not deceiving or despising any other, not wishing harm by anger or hatred. And then we get to the line about even as a mother at the risk of her life watches over and protects her only child, so with a boundless mind should one cherish all living things, suffusing love over the entire world, above, below, and all around without limit. So let one cultivate an infinite goodwill toward the whole world. And that's another sticking point for me. I've always wondered if I've ever had an experience of that. Is it humanly possible to do that? I don't know that I have an embodied sense of what it would be to suffuse love over the entire world. Is it just something in my head? Kind of sweet instruction that is very hard to do, so much so that I'm not sure that I ever have or ever will? Or is there actually a way that we have experienced that? And a little bit further on, I'd like to do a short meditation, a short guided meditation, where we maybe can get a sense, a taste of our experience of that and what it might be to extend that outward from our own experience. And then we come to a section that, to me, talks particularly about practice, about our practice, standing or walking, sitting or lying down during all one's waking hours. Let one practice the way with gratitude. These next 3 lines have come to strike me as talking about the remedy for greed, hate, and delusion. To me, not holding to fixed views is a remedy for hate. Endowed with insight is the description of not being caught by delusion. Freed from sense appetites speaks to not being subsumed by greed. And then one who achieves the way will be freed from the duality of birth and death. So that's my take right now on the Metta Sutta. How I read it right now, what some of my questions are about it that I continue to chew on, to work with. But I'd like now to take just a few minutes and do the guided meditation I was speaking of. So get comfortable in any position that supports you and you're able to comfortably maintain for a few minutes. And if you like, close your eyes or keep them softly open. And take 3 deep breaths in and out. Aware of the air becoming breath, then becoming air again. Aware of the weight of your particular body being supported by the earth, by your chair, by the floor. And bring to mind or imagine an instance in your life that could be described as loving kindness. could be an interaction with another person, a family member, a friend, a stranger, with a teacher or a child. Could be a connection with an animal or a place, a particular experience that filled your heart. You felt full of love and kindness and gratitude. Let yourself be in that experience. Become aware of where it is, what surrounds you, the sounds, the sights involved in this experience, the smells, the physical feelings. Let yourself recall or imagine what happened that provoked this feeling. Allow the awareness of this feeling, this sensation, this memory or imagining to settle into your body. Become aware of where in your body you feel this. And bask in that feeling. Allow that feeling to glow. And radiate. A warmth and a light filling your body, expanding beyond the edges of your body, out into your surroundings. Perhaps golden, shining light that is the feeling of this loving kindness. This light and warmth continues to expand until it covers the entire area that you're inhabiting. The entire sky, the entire ground, all the air. This light and warmth and well-being, until you're able to imagine the globe of the earth entirely covered with this golden light, with a great comfort and ease. Imagine all of space. All there is, born and to be born. In the light of this kind, sure feeling. Suffusing love over the entire world, above, below, and all around, without limit. Allow your mind to come back to your own self. This warm light still exists. And bring your awareness to someone that's physically close to you right now, either online or in the room. And imagine encasing that person in this golden light, this individual one. So that both of you are in a blanket, a formless field of benefaction, unable to say where it comes from, unable to assign any deserving. Our work in some part is to love the unlovable. The lovable is easy, makes us smile. Our work is to become aware of what is it that needs this love and extend this kindness there. So come back to yourself wherever you are. And I propose that that's a physical embodied experience of suffusing love over the entire world. And that we must get better at it the more we practice it. So I wanted to open it up. We have a nice intimate group, so we don't need any breakout rooms, but to let people express their experiences and questions and ideas about this. I'll let Nancy call on people if she sees people raise their hands. Kim.
Yesterday, Buddhist Action Now, we read about the childhood of Putin. And this was, one thing I've been noticing lately is how some things really affect me, but I don't notice it till much later. And when you read the Metta Sutta for the first time, I saw the incredible contrast between how Putin was raised. And they said that all the terrible leaders have had a terrible, traumatic childhood, the same way as his parents did. So it just really struck me, the contrast and what this might have done what, being suffused with love rather than with hate and then reading this morning about the bombing of I think the kids with 60 kids in a school or something, something terrible today. And then hearing this, it really was jolting, how different that is and how important it is, however we can carry this message. And when we think about other issues, for example, the environment and things, and racism, this is really something we can do, in every moment, is just have this on our mind.
Yeah, it reminds me, I just listened to something online, the title of which was What We Nurture. And the woman who was giving the talk told the old story, supposedly Native American, about a grandmother talking to a young girl, saying, inside me, there are two wolves. And one is angry and fighting, and one is kind and loving. And they're always battling. And the little girl says, Grandma, who wins? And the grandma says, the one I feed.
Okay. Shayla?
Yes, good morning. I want to thank you for this teaching. I relate to the difficulty that we have in diffusing love in the world. That's become a huge part of my practice. And one of the, or attempting to do that, I find it more and more difficult with the way things are. And like Kim was saying, particularly with the war that is going on and the war that's going on in this country. In so many ways, the Supreme Court decision that we think is coming has been very difficult for me to accept. The seemingly lack of loving kindness for all women in this time where our very bodies are being threatened. It is difficult. One of the things that I think has helped me, especially when Peg sent out the prayer for Putin, I don't know if everybody got that email where she had written a loving kindness meditation sort of for to do. And I began to do that, try to do that daily. And it really, it's expanded to other people for me, and using that same prayer, really it's sort of become a prayer for everyone, because there are such, and what it does is it changes me when I recite a prayer like that, a loving kindness meditation. What's changing is not the people in the world and the behavior that's going on, but what's changing is my ability to embrace something that is seemingly unembraceable. And so it's really, I think, important for me to have that reminder daily That's what we are called to do as compassionate human beings, whether rationally we really feel like we're there and being able to do it. The repetition, the practice is does change us slowly but surely in ways that are mysterious and not at all rational to me. But thank you so much for the reminder, and happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Thank you for the encouragement. It's always very nice to hear that it.
Okay, Lynn.
I wanted to also thank you, Anne. And Sheila, thank you very much for your comments. And Kim as well. But Anne, you just nailed it. You just nailed it. The way you went through, and the way you introduced it and said that you said something like, or maybe there's a line in here that reminded you to say, I don't know who the wise people are. I don't know how they know this. And I always feel that way when I talk, because I never talk on these things. This is maybe the first time, except for morning zazen, because I feel like I know nothing, and I have nothing that would help anyone or share. But I wanted to thank you, and I agree. I feel the same about Mother's Day. It's a mixed bag with me as well. But it's weird how I keep looking at this Metta Sutta that you read, and there's only one place in the whole Sutta that I can tell where he actually doesn't give advice and doesn't say, here's how you should be, but operationalizes it in a way. Yes, thank you, Kim. That is so much better. I can now see Anne's face. Thank you. There's only one place where he operationalizes it. And that is the line that you read about the mother. It's this, even as a mother at the risk of her life watches over and protects her only child, so with a boundless mind should one cherish all living things, suffusing love over the entire world. And I tied that when you were doing the meditation and you told us to go to a certain place and then you kept going there. I actually could feel it. I could feel that heavy, nice heavy that you feel. And where you feel it, I'm sure a mother feels it. I'm just positive a mother feels it. And we feel it in different ways. And we know the Buddha was ahead of his time. And I know you're a scientist, Anne, so he didn't know about oxytocin, right? But isn't that the brain chemical that comes out with love? And I'm just wondering if that's what we feel sometimes. I was definitely feeling it big time when you were talking. And here's where I typically feel it. I felt it the other day when I was visiting a family member. It was just amazing how I felt. I even mentioned it. And here's what I said. I said, this reminds me, this is so heavy right now. This reminds me when we had a tragic flood here a few years ago where I live, southwest of Austin, in Wimberley. And many people died, many houses were destroyed. And the way the community came together, and people came from all over the world to help us. You could walk through town cutting this feeling of love with a knife. You could just cut it with a knife. It was so thick. And so I felt that when you were talking, and I felt it and I held it and I held it. And I kept thinking, okay, Lynn, now your purpose is to spread this out, to suffuse it over the world. So this is where I am. I'm just reacting to what happened. I want to suffuse it. And then as soon as I clicked raise my hand and that little yellow hand went up, it went away and it became fear. Because I don't do this. Anyway, I don't know where that went. I know nothing, but thank you so much.
Mhm. Okay, then you don't get to hide anymore. We all know you have much wisdom. Thank you.
thì Geneva.
Hi. I wanted to thank you and Sheila and Lynn. So much depth of heart wisdom today, and honesty and vulnerability. I noticed that when we did the guided meditation, I was aware that the love was being shared and I was having trouble receiving it. Then when we went further and we started with sending the love out, I was able to feel it better. So that's just an interesting thing that I experienced. And I had some thoughts. So I think wisdom, I think that line for me is a request for me to keep considering what is wise, to keep asking myself, what is wise? Not that I will know the answer, and not that anybody always knows the answer, but the question is worth asking. What would a wise person do here? And I think each of us has a kind of wisdom inside that we don't consult very often. And so I think it's a worthy question, even if there is no ultimate answer. I think we can always, at any moment, do our best to take the next right step and then do our best again. I also thought about nice. You said it was an invocation to be nice. And I thought about how many of us are raised to be nice all the time, especially girls. If you don't have anything nice to say, you don't say anything at all. And I was thinking that the loving, wise action is not always the nice action. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to set a limit. You can do it in a loving way, but it may not, if you're the mother, for example, setting a limit for your daughter may be the right, wise, loving thing to do, but may not be what she wants to hear. So I think that being loving and being nice are not the same. And I think it is impossible to be, I think it is unhealthy to be nice all the time. But I think it's healthy to be, to take a vow to attempt loving kindness in every interaction for everyone involved, including oneself. And I was thinking about the giving of love to those, for example, whom we see as causing unacceptable damage, harm to others. That is a tough one because, as a mother would protect her child. It says that would protect the child, even if that meant fighting someone off. So it's a very confusing paradigm. When do you fight the aggressor and when do you love the aggressor? And I think that loving the aggressor is something for us to strive to do, not because we like it and not because we want to, but because it's what's needed. And it's just needed from beginning to end. And Putin didn't get it. We can't help that, but it's still what's needed for everyone in a global kind of humanitarian way. It's what is needed in the world. So those were my thoughts and experiences. Thank you all for letting me feel so much today.
Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you.
Thì Mala, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I have trouble with my laptop and the speakers or the microphone goes out sometimes. And I want to thank you for your interpretation of the Metta Sutra, and it was um, different for me this time, and I'm grateful for it. And I recognize in thinking about diffusing love over the entire world that my best lever for doing that is focusing on my own sphere of influence
Mm.
and my own practice. And I also struggle to reconcile that with my sense that having a practice is a privilege.
Mm.
In having the time and the relative wealth and the health and the safety to have a practice when so many people in the world don't have those things. And I guess I feel guilty about that. And I also recognize that it's futile to feel that way.
Mm.
So in trying to absorb the metta, there is that little block for me.
Mm.
And it's guilt, and it's like I said, it's futile.
Mm.
But do you have any advice?
Boy, yeah, that's a really good point to remember, that we are incredibly privileged. Um, in some ways, we can't really know other people's minds and lives, I guess. I think
Mm-hmm.
their ability to practice won't be the same way we're practicing. Won't be in a nice air-conditioned room, maybe, with beautiful flowers, but I think most people are able to practice. I would say, yeah, that it will not be with the same conditions that we practice, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the desire to do that, the desire to realize, to become awakened, to be of service, and to suffuse love is there, and the practice springs from that.
I don't know if you remember last Sunday in our introductory class on sewing the Roxy, this came up for me as I was watching you handle the richness of the
Yes.
cloth and the idea that, that's a beautiful thing that we
Yeah.
possess. But anyway, thank you for your words. That's very helpful. Very.
Thank you all. People talk about how everyone is their teacher, but I do feel like when people speak, have responses to things, that those are really rich. Those are definitely Dharma nuggets for me. So thank you all for speaking.